Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. I understand. Don't worry, Wutong. In this world, only Donga and Chioa are able to walk into my heart. Right now, whether it's Donga or Chioa, they are in fact you. That's why no one can affect our relationship. Yes, I once liked Juzi. However, that's all in the past. Things might have been different if she was willing to be with me before I knew you were a girl. However, she didn't, she chose to walk her own path. Thus, I already know that it's forever impossible between us. That's why I only treat her as a friend. If she threatens the academy one day, I'll definitely not show any mercy. When he said his last sentence, Tang Wutong could clearly sense the killing intent in him. The academy was still the most important thing in his heart. Tang Wutong revealed a smile on her face and asked, "What if I'm the one threatening the academy?" I know it's a stupid question, but I still want to ask you. Huo Yuhao was stunned. After this, he immediately turned serious. You can't make jokes about that. If that day really comes, I'll kill you too. The difference is that I'll kill myself after I kill you, I'll kill myself for you. In that way, I'll protect our love and the academy. I'm sorry, Yuhao. I'll not ask such a question in the future. Tang Wutong hugged him tightly and seemed to want to alleviate his worries. Huo Yuhao softly caressed her long hair and said, I hope such a day never comes. I don't think Juzi will do that. After all, the academy is not an empire. No matter how mad Shu Tianran is, he wouldn't target the academy. For any ruler, the academy is the best supplier of talents. Moreover, the academy has such a long history. If someone wants to destroy it, he'll need to consider whether it's worth incurring the wrath of all the students of the academy. Tang Wutong nodded and said, yes, we'll all give our all if the academy is destroyed. Huo Yuhao nodded lightly and revealed a slight smile on his face. All right. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's pick up speed. Let's observe the situation in the Sun Moon Empire first before we decide what to do. We need to weaken Juzi's abilities, but we can't do that too much. Furthermore, the Sun Moon Empire will adapt once we make a move. Something else might happen too. That is, the Holy Ghost Church might send someone to the army. If that's the case, it'll get a little crowded. We just need to kill those soul engineers and plant it on the Holy Ghost Church. I'll not have any misgivings doing that. Tang Wutong snapped, you're getting worse. Who do you think the Holy Ghost Church will send next? Will Yi Shishui personally come? There's also Zhong Liwu. After he attacked me that day, you greatly hurt his martial soul. I wonder how he is now. Huo Yuhao said, Zhong Liwu's origin must have been hurt too. Although I don't know how critical his injuries are, they shouldn't be light. He won't be able to recover in a month. That's why I believe the Holy Ghost Church can only send one person capable of striking fear into everyone's hearts, Yi Shishui. It's just that Yi Shishui might not be able to compare to an entire army. No matter how strong the death god Doluo is, the Sun Moon Empire's army might not really be afraid of her with the linked soul tools they have. Even Di Qian didn't fare very well against them. I wonder whether his injuries have healed. Tang Wutong rolled her eyes and asked, are you concerned about him now? It's already good that he's not bothering you. Huo Yuhao chortled and said, I'll need to face him one day, even if I try to avoid him. I just hope that I can face him when I'm stronger. I can only stand at the top of this world if I defeat him. Wutong, promise me that you won't stop me when I challenge him one day. You don't have to help me either. I'll use my own strength to beat him. Tang Wutong was stunned. But we are together. Huo Yuhao sighed and replied, to me, challenging Di Qian is not just a way of proving my strength. At the same time, it's a personal mission. It's a mission I have to complete. In his mind, he recalled what Nyan Rongbing had told him. To increase his cultivation and become a transcendent Doluo, Huo Huo Yuhao could clearly sense the strength of the god of emotions getting greater and greater in his body. Perhaps it was the strength of a god. It was a strength that didn't belong to him. At least, it didn't belong to him yet. However, it was fusing with him. When he summoned this strength before, it was when Tang Wutong got hurt trying to save him. He unleashed the power of emotions and fused his emotions with his fighting strength. It was an important direction that he was gearing towards in the future too. Di Qian was already at the top of the world. Even if he became an ultimate Doluo and had a third soul core, he might still be unable to defeat Di Qian. If he wanted to beat Di Qian, he had to fuse his power with his emotions. It was only through this way that he could achieve a breakthrough and truly inherit the title of the god of emotions. He wasn't just doing this for himself now. Becoming a god was also a route that he had to take if he wanted to free the 6 spirits in his body. Furthermore, when that time came, he would definitely bring Tang Wutong along with him to the godly realm. Huo Yuhao had this thought since Tang Wutong was so strong, he could ask Nian Rongbing to find a title for her to inherit after he became the god of emotions. To him, Nian Rongbing shouldn't reject his request. When he thought until here, Huo Yuhao suddenly felt very motivated. What was happier than knowing one's direction in life? Huo Yuhao relaxed his embrace of Tang Wutong and held her hand once again. As the two of them spoke, they had already covered 250 kilometers. In the distance, the lay of the land was presented in Huo Yuhao's mind as he used his spiritual detection. Just like Jing Hongchen had described, there was a huge valley. The size of this valley was much bigger than the ice-fire yin-yang well that they had been to before. Although there were many treasures and even 2 wells in the ice-fire yin-yang well, it wasn't very huge. However, it was very different here. This valley was very large, far exceeding the size of an ordinary city. There was an entrance and exit at both sides of the valley. The terrain was very level. From the plants that grew here, it was evident that this was a treasure spot. Mountains of rocks surrounded the valley. Although they weren't completely barren, there weren't many plants growing on these mountains. This was why only the rocks could be seen. While they weren't aesthetically pleasing, they were very tough. They were natural city walls. The Sun Moon Empire was hiding here. It was indeed very difficult to locate them. If not for Jing Hongchen's intelligence, Huo Yuhao wouldn't have found them here anytime soon. Huo Yuhao used his spiritual detection to take a more detailed look. Indeed, there were many tents pitched in the valley. Furthermore, there were soul formations erected in 4 different directions, at the tops of the mountain peaks. The scale of these soul formations was rather great. It appeared that they were all helmed by Beast Lord-ranked soul engineer legions. Who are they trying to deal with? Surely not me, right? Huo Yuhao wondered curiously. Along with his previous guess, the answer had revealed itself to him. His plan had ultimately succeeded. Internal chaos had ensued as their soul engineers killed the evil soul masters. The Holy Ghost Church was definitely going to retaliate. I wonder how Zhu Zi is going to deal with this matter. She didn't lead the army back to the empire. That shows that she's not willing to truly admit her mistake. As for how Shu Tianran is going to deal with this situation, I think it's obvious. He'll side with Zhu Zi. While the Holy Ghost Church is important to the Sun Moon Empire, its primary purpose is to deal with Shrek Academy. Now that the Academy is slowly not becoming the most important opponent to the Empire, the Holy Ghost Church is becoming less and less important, especially after the Heavenly Soul Empire's destruction and the increase in the Sun Moon Empire's overall strength following the investment of a huge amount of resources. However, Zhu Zi is different. Her reputation in the army is only growing. She also represents Shu Tianran's interests. If she's heavily punished, it'll clash with his interests. That's why Shu Tianran should be on her side. The furious death god Doluo will surely be here to look for trouble. I just don't know when she'll appear. However, it seems like she's not here yet. However, she wouldn't be able to handle so many soul engineers at once even if she manages to destroy a part of their soul formations. As for where Zhu Zi is, I'm afraid only she'll know. It won't be easy to find her. Of course, Huo Yuhao was considering things from Yi Shishui's perspective, rather than his own. He had his spiritual detection. Even if there were many times more soldiers, he would still be able to locate Juzi as long as he had enough time. He didn't directly proceed to find Juzi. He only checked the deployment of the soldiers on the terrain, as well as the positions of all the soul formations. After this, he flew further with Tang Wutong, through a route that soldiers would have to pass in order to reinforce the army in the valley. It was impossible to escape from Huo Yuhao's sight given his spiritual power. Tang Wutong asked, "How is it? What's the deployment of soldiers like over here?" Huo Yuhao said, "The entire Sun Moon Empire army is here. Juzi should be here too. There are 4 Beast Lord-ranked Soul Engineer legions helming soul formations at the mountain tops. In the mountain valley, there are 8 other soul formations. Although they are weaker, they've been built very close to one another. They complement the soul formations at the mountain tops very well. Above the valley, in a region covering a few hundred kilometers from the center, there are all types of aerial surveillance soul tools. This is a trap. Even we would be discovered if we made any moves inside, and it wouldn't be easy to escape. Juzi is really vicious. She's targeting the death god Doluo and the darkness holy dragon. It's too domineering. Have they really fallen out so badly?" Tang Wutong chuckled and commented, "It's all you're doing. If you didn't frame them, things wouldn't be like this." Huo Yuhao also laughed. "Do you know how I feel right now?" Tang Wutong was confused as she looked at him. Huo Yuhao laughed, "Right now, I feel that we have to carefully make our way in from the outside and slowly tear apart her impenetrable defense. We'll then thwart her plans. Although it'll take some time, I feel confident for some reason. If my earlier plan didn't succeed, the Holy Ghost Church would undoubtedly want to deal with me first. 2 Ultimate Doluo won't be easy to deal with. However, it seems like Juzi is going to help us take the pressure this time. From her current setup, she must be pretty confident that the death god Doluo will come and seek trouble. Otherwise, she wouldn't have prepared like this. Let's watch and observe first, and let them fight among themselves. When they are almost done, let's step in. As for killing those reinforcements, of course it'll be the doing of the Holy Ghost Church." Tang Wutong laughed. "You can do whatever you want. Anyway, if you are the antagonist, I'm the woman of the antagonist. Ha ha. I must be a thief, and you're the thief's wife. Sounds bad. What thief's wife? I'm much better than that." The 2 of them quickly picked up speed and flew into the distance. Mountain Valley. Commander's tent. Juzi was seated in the commander's tent. Right now, her warrior robe was gone. She was only in an official uniform, just like how she was in the palace. She creased her brow and paced up and down the tent. No one knew what she was thinking about. After Shu Qianran's instructions were delayed for a long time, they finally reached her. Shu Qianran sternly admonished her for what she had done, but he didn't mention any punishment. He only said that she would be punished after she returned from the war against the Douling and Star Luo empires. His edict was very interesting. Everyone could tell that he was protecting her. Only Juzi knew that he wasn't just protecting her, he was also weakening her. Evidently, Shu Qianran knew that the Holy Ghost Church would be mad after he passed this edict. Of course, he wasn't afraid of the Holy Ghost Church in Radiant City. He had the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion to protect him. Along with the soul formations in Radiant City, even Ultimate Doluo couldn't easily lay their hands on him. Shu Qianran was also not the one who killed the Soul Masters from the Holy Ghost Church. It was Juzi's soul engineers in the army. She was even the commander of the 3 armies. It would be a surprise if the Holy Ghost Church didn't vent their anger on her. Fortunately, she had entrusted her son to Shu Qianran before she left the imperial palace. It was unlikely that he would come into any danger. Shu Qianran was being distrustful of her right now. He was always very distrustful. He must believe that she wielded too much power after they stabilized things in the Heavenly Soul Empire. This was why he was weakening her through the Holy Ghost Church. Of course, this matter could be argued the other way around too. He wished to borrow her strength to weaken the Holy Ghost Church. The only way to do so was to kill them all. The Sun Moon Empire had already demonstrated its absolute advantage on the continent. This meant that the Holy Ghost Church was expendable now. Given this, it wasn't a bad idea to wipe out the evil soul masters once and for all. At least, this was something that all the citizens and officials were willing to see. If so, why not? Xu Qianran was just going to be an observer. He was clearly aware that he had to stand on Zhu Zi's side. She wielded a lot of power, and she was very clever too. As for the Holy Ghost Church, he didn't think too much of them. Now that the army had rebelled, it was equivalent to the Holy Ghost Church being ostracized by the Sun Moon Empire. They couldn't return to their former glory anymore. Just like Jing Hongchen, the Holy Ghost Church had served its purpose. The Holy Ghost Church's greatest mistake was its arrogance. It was too arrogant, believing that the Sun Moon Empire couldn't deal with Shrek Academy without them. When it came to this, the three empires of the original Doluo continent had made the same mistake. They had looked down on the strength of soul tools. Xu Qianran and the Sun Moon Empire had used facts to prove that soul tools could help them dominate the entire continent. After this fact was established, what further use was the Holy Ghost Church? The evils of the Holy Ghost Church had already incurred a lot of wrath. Getting rid of them completely was something everyone would be happy to see. The dirty spots of the past had to be cleaned, and they had to be cleaned completely. What Xu Qianran wanted was to rule the entire continent properly, not in an evil manner. This was why he had thought of this good idea after pondering over it. He was going to let someone else settle his problem without implicating him. As for Zhu Zi's life, did it really matter compared to his future? Of course, if she really died, he would still be very sad. At least, she was the most loyal and caring among all his subordinates. Xu Qianran had even thought of it. If Zhu Zi died, he would announce to his people that he would not marry anyone else in the future. Anyway, he already had a crown prince. Whether he had an empress didn't matter anymore. The cold smile on Zhu Zi's face widened. She could completely see through Xu Qianran's mind right now. She could even imagine his expression when he gave this edict. A distrustful anti-hero. This was her appraisal of him. However, she despised him more and more right now. I wonder how Yuhao is. Tang Wutong was severely hurt by Zhong Liwu that night. Did he manage to treat her after he left? When she thought of Huo Yuhao, the coldness in Zhu Zi's heart turned into worry. Even though she knew that he was her greatest threat in the future, she still couldn't help but think of him. If she had to lose to someone in the future, she wished it would be to Huo Yuhao. It wasn't shameful losing to someone she deeply loved. Perhaps it was even a form of bliss. When that happened, she might really be freed. All types of ideas surfaced in her mind. After 2 hours, she returned to her seat and sat down a little lethargically. After she willingly took the rap for her subordinates, her reputation in the army grew unprecedentedly high. All the generals admired and respected her. They were resting here because they were waiting for Xu Qianran's edict. Apart from admonishing Zhu Zi, Xu Qianran had also instructed her to proceed with her attacks until they ruled the entire continent. Supplies would be sent over. As for the threat the Holy Ghost Church posed, he didn't mention a single word at all. Are you still thinking of using me as a tool to help you rule the entire continent? A cold look flashed across Zhu Zi's eyes. Xu Qianran, you're really bold. Your selfishness will doom you. You only have 3 to 4 years left to live. Unless I'm dead, you are doomed. When she thought until here, Zhu Zi looked very cold. Her entire face was filled with killing intent. Fortunately, she was the only one in the tent right now. No one saw her. The edict had already been crushed into waste paper in her hand. A boom suddenly sounded, jolting Zhu Zi awake. She subconsciously put on her human-shaped soul tool and rushed outside to take a look. Once she exited the tent, she immediately saw the brightly lit sky. On the mountaintops surrounding the mountain valley, 4 soul formations had already fully unleashed their linked defensive barriers. It was just that the light coming from the protective soul barrier in the southeast was much dimmer, and rocks were falling from the sky on that side. Fortunately, only soul engineers were stationed there. Not many people were hurt as soul rays were used to deal with the falling rocks. Advanced tier soul engineers quickly gathered close to the commander's tent. They all looked into the sky, and they appeared very serious. Only Ju Zi looked steady. There was even a scornful look on her face. What's meant to come will always come. It's a pity that she's more foolish than I thought. Is she really trying to overcome my defensive formations with brute force? Marshal, we must not be complacent. After all, she's the strongest person in the Empire. It's best to be prudent. In the sky, a dark red figure flashed. There was a huge projection behind this figure. This projection was around 100 meters tall, and was completely dark red. There was a giant pointed tower surrounding its arms. Red light had just retracted from the tip of the tower. When the southeast side of the soul formations was attacked, the linked defensive barrier was automatically activated. However, it was still overcome. Huge losses were incurred. More than a third of the soul formation was wiped out. This was why the effect of the linked defensive barrier in this direction wasn't very ideal. Yi Shishui was the figure drifting in front. Behind her was her blood soul demon puppet, and that pointed pagoda was undoubtedly the soul tool that was hailed as the only soul tool close to being a class 10 soul tool, the Death God Pagoda. The Death God Pagoda had almost threatened the life of Huo Yuhao. This time, it was facing Ju Zi. Yi Shishui's voice traveled far and wide. Empress, hand over all the killers and I'll leave. You'll still be the marshal. Otherwise, I'll not leave anyone alive. All soul engineers will die. Ju Zi's voice was transmitted through a sound-amplifying soul tool. I don't know what you're talking about. There are only loyal soldiers here. What killers are you talking about? Death God Doluo, as the supreme worshipped of the Empire and sect leader of the Holy Ghost Church, how dare you kill my soldiers? Even if you bring this issue to His Majesty, I wouldn't be afraid of you. Do you really think you can fight me and my soul formations on your own? You're too naive. HMPH. Yi Shishui roared furiously. Suddenly, her voice echoed everywhere. The entire mountain valley started shaking. Another ball of red light formed at the top of her Death God Pagoda. Although Yi Shishui didn't have Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection, her spiritual power was still at his standard. She could still use her voice to find someone. At this moment, a domineering beam of white light rose into the sky. This beam of white light instantly appeared in front of Yi Shishui. On a closer look, it was evident that this beam of light was formed from 8 smaller beams of light. It was dazzling. Wherever it passed, space shattered. It also illuminated the entire night sky. At this moment, a low-pitched dragon roar sounded, and a huge pitch-black figure blocked Yi Shishui. It was a giant black dragon. It opened its mouth suddenly and let out its pitch-black breath, which contrasted perfectly against the beam of white light. Just as the breath and beam of white light clashed, countless spatial cracks seemed to form within the black breath. Although it was forced back by the beam of white light, the beam of light was also rapidly weakened. Ju Zi's expression changed. She muttered, Dragon Emperor Doluo, you are indeed here too. Yes, it was the Darkness Holy Dragon, who had blocked the attack for Yi Shishui. That huge, black dragon was undoubtedly his true body. The terrifying collision in the air generated dazzling sparks, which only disappeared after the beam of white light had completely dissipated. The first linked attack was forcefully resisted by the Darkness Holy Dragon just like that. The Legion commanders who had unleashed this attack turned pale. They hadn't expected a linked attack from 8 soul formations to be resisted by the strength of a single soul master. It was already beyond what they could comprehend. However, that was only the start of their attack. Another 4 beams of light shot towards Yi Shishui. These 4 beams of light came from the 4 sides. They were unleashed by the 4 Beast Lord-ranked Soul Engineer Legions. Although these linked attacks by the Soul Engineer Legions couldn't compare to the linked attack from before, the strength of every beam of light was still half that of the beam of white light earlier. When the 4 beams of light shot out, the sky immediately changed color. Linked attacks and defenses were the greatest strengths that Soul Engineers could rely on. This was also why Zhu Zi was scornful when she saw that Yi Shishui wanted to fight her army directly. Against such an army, it was not the best choice for an ultimate Doluo to fight head-on. She wouldn't be able to fully unleash her strength. Of course, that was also because the surveillance soul tools she had set up were very effective. Apart from Huo Yuhao's special abilities, ordinary title Doluo, and even ultimate Doluo, wouldn't be able to hide from those surveillance soul tools. This was the reason for the current situation. A dark red beam light was unleashed at Zhu Zi. The 4 Beast Lord rank Soul Engineer legions had just finished attacking, and were now frantically redeploying their linked defensive barriers. Yi Shishui was very good at exploiting opportunities. She didn't even bother with the 4 beams of light. Instead, she exploited this opportunity to attack Zhu Zi. Long Xiaoyao started to spin in the sky as he let out breath after breath. He dispelled the 4 beams of light. However, upon closer inspection, the black air currents around his body had clearly become weaker. Bloody light inched closer. No wonder the Death God Pagoda was the world's strongest offensive soul tool. The linked defensive barriers set up by the 4 Soul Engineer legions were instantly broken, and the red light rained down towards Zhu Zi. At this moment, Zhu Zi only felt her body turning cold. She couldn't avoid it even if she wanted to. This was the terrifying effect of a soul tool that was close to being class 10. However, the second line of defense was instantly activated. The 8 soul formations inside the mountain valley shone brightly at the same time. Another layer of linked defensive barriers was erected above them, protecting Zhu Zi. As the blood-red light and pure white linked defensive barriers collided, bright lights were released. It was as if countless streaks of bloody light had blown apart. However, they didn't just dissipate. Instead, they turned into blood-red avenging spirits that clawed and chewed at the barrier. Piercing, scratching noises could be heard. The light of the death god was terrifying, because it burned countless souls every time it was unleashed. From there, the strongest force of vengeance was formed. It wasn't just a soul power-driven attack. It also contained spiritual power. A linked defensive barrier formed by close to 10 Soul Engineer legions was needed before the light of the death god could be resisted. The blood-red lights finally disappeared. However, even though many of the soldiers weren't hurt, they felt as if their souls had left their bodies. They were all feeling dizzy. The death god Doluo was actually so strong. That was also Zhu Zi's first time facing Yi Shishui. Her appraisal of the death god Doluo was already very high in the past, but right now, she realized that her judgment might have been flawed. Yi Shishui wasn't just an ultimate Doluo. She was also a class 9 soul engineer. Her own self-created soul tools might not be very strong, but her death god pagoda was one of the strongest soul tools in the world of soul engineers. She was even an evil ultimate Doluo. When she unleashed her full strength, the offensive power she could demonstrate was beyond everyone's imagination. She didn't even defend herself. She poured her ultimate Doluo cultivation into her death god pagoda. Along with the force of vengeance in her death god pagoda, she managed to resist 10 soul engineer legions with her individual strength. This was absolute power. Long Xiaoyao also astonished everyone. After all, Yi Shishui's attack didn't manage to overcome the defensive formations of all 12 soul formations. However, Long Xiaoyao had helped Yi Shishui defend against all their attacks with just his own strength. Was he still human? Could a human really resist such terrifying attacks that were even capable of destroying an entire city? Even Di Qian was exposed by the Holy Ghost Church when he faced linked defensive soul tools. Was the Dragon Emperor Doluo stronger than Di Qian? At a place very far away, 2 people were lying in an ordinary bush. Their eyes were both shut, but they held each other's hands very tightly. Yuhao, don't you think this is a good opportunity? If we, Tang Wutong softly asked. Huo Yuhao shook his head and answered, they won't give us an opportunity. When the Dragon Emperor Doluo and the Death God Doluo first arrived, they were already aware. After that, Huo Yuhao had brought Tang Wutong here. They weren't observing the fight with their eyes, but through his spiritual detection. Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection engulfed the entire battlefield. He was watching from a sky-high perspective, and observed every change on the battlefield. The only feeling he had was that the two ultimate Doluo were too domineering. No wonder they were ultimate Doluo. Huo Yuhao could roughly guess that his and Tang Wutong's combined fighting strength was around the standard of an ultimate Doluo. However, he had a different feeling when he watched them in action. What were ultimate Doluo? They were the extremes of this world. They represented the limits that humans could reach. Not only were they very strong, but they were also very proud. When Yi Shishui arrived, she didn't think of using any other method to fight. She appeared directly above the mountain valley. She didn't even proceed to destroy the aerial surveillance soul tools. She unleashed her Death God Pagoda, just like that, and attacked the mountain valley. How domineering was that? At least Huo Yuhao didn't think of such a method when he was pondering how he should deal with this mountain valley. It was a method that was supposed to fail. However, Yi Shishui had relied on her abilities to carve a way out for herself. She had even almost threatened Zhu Zi's life. Huo Yuhao was absolutely certain that Long Xiaoyao and Yi Shishui's abilities were complementary. Even though their martial souls couldn't fuse, even Di Tian might not be able to defeat them if they were together. Ultimate Doluo couldn't possibly fuse their martial souls. This was because martial soul fusion at such a level would exceed the limits that this world had on power. It reached the level of gods. Humans couldn't reach such a level. Even Huo Yuhao was well aware that he and Tang Wutong wouldn't be able to use their fusion skills once they became ultimate Doluo. This video will end here.